Bookstore, and this week we're going to talk about book events because that's like my passion project. So there's a bunch of different ways you can find out about book events. Anything local, you can follow any like local pages on Facebook. If you know other authors in your area, you can follow them. Sometimes they'll know about book events. Sometimes craft fairs will take authors. It just depends, and especially at the end of the year, between like September and beginning of December, when everyone's holiday shopping, there's usually a lot of craft fairs that you can apply to, and I know they usually limit how many people they have for certain categories, but you can always try. It can't hurt. Um, the other thing you can do if you're looking for bigger things like cons, book events, book conventions are usually multi-day, so a lot of them start on Thursday or Friday and they run through to Sunday morning, usually with like a farewell breakfast. Those are a lot more in depth than just a book signing, which is typically a one-day event for several hours, so your setup and your takedown are all done in the same day around the event. You can find events like that, like book cons, same sort of way, through authors that you either follow and know, local authors, local event pages. But if you're wanting to travel for any type of book event or con, there's some Facebook groups that offer places for events and authors to post about events. I will link those below. And you can also just look at the events that authors you admire or follow are attending, and you can literally go to their webpage or their Facebook page or their Instagram and apply or message the event coordinator and see if they are still taking authors or vendors. There's a lot of different ways that you can try and apply for an event. Unless it's a really large con, typically a lot of them are not particular about like your backlist or how popular you are. There's some events and companies that are just first come first serve, and a lot of those have a wait list that kind of goes all the way through because they have their events up for more than a year before the actual event. So there's lots of things you can look into. There's also a new site now called Beventi. I believe it's Beventi Co. And basically it is a site for the book events that are happening to make an event page that authors can then, if they have a Beventi account, they can automatically link their pre-order sheets to the website. So as soon as somebody finds that event as a reader, they can automatically look through all the authors that are listed on Beventi, and they get the updates for what's closing soon, what's new soon, and when the event hours and dates are. So you don't have to necessarily go look and promote as much. You should still do that because cons survive and thrive on the attending authors and vendors promoting the event. That's what sells these things. You can make a Beventi account. It's pretty easy. And then you can either upload your list from Amazon or input the books, which doesn't take as long as you think. And then you can search events and go apply that way. Or if you're already going to an event, you can just create a separate pre-order form, automatically upload. It takes a couple minutes, and then publish, and you have a pre-order form for that event, and you are automatically marketed for the event because you're on their Beventi page. So for me, the big thing about book cons and book signings versus just store signings, because I don't do a lot of those, is in 2023, in 2024, I made 6 times what I made in 2023, and I traveled to 4, I believe I traveled to 4 events in 24. They were not spread out. The ones that I had to leave state for were back to back, so I did a February, March, and a September, October. My husband was not as thrilled as I was about that, but it worked out. Some of them I lost a lot of money on, some of them I made a ton of money on. So it's really dependent on your audience, and if that event is dark romance, mystery, thriller, all, you really need to look into that when you're applying, because if you're a dark romance author who's going to mystery thriller events, you're not going to sell. Um, Anything that's all genres, you have a better chance of meeting a diverse collection of readers. But if you're very niche, like if you write monster romances, super dark romances, taboo, it's kind of a toss up on who's going to find you there. I had the most success at a signing called Books and Bourbon for traveling events. Um, that signing did me really, really well. I can't speak for anyone else, but that event specifically did really well for me. Um, Unfortunately, I can't go back in 2025 because the dates don't work for me, but it was a very good event in my opinion, and I loved the trip there. That was a lot of fun. I loved getting to see my friends. That's one of the highlights for me, I think, is when I travel. If I have an idea of who's going to be attending that event or that con, then I usually get to see some of my friends. And honestly, I've made more friends in the last year being an author and not seeing them for 90% of the year and just seeing people at events. Um, and those are some of the best friendships I've ever had. So if you are thinking about going to cons, I always recommend like looking at who is attending or who's going to attend. And if it's anyone you admire, your friends, anything, that just makes the experience that much more fun. So we'll go into things at one point about like what you can bring to a book event, what I pack and stuff. I have an event in the middle of January that's local to me. It's at a bookstore, so hey, my first bookstore signing. But I also have a con, or it's a book event, it's not a con. Flirty in Kansas City. I have that one in February, so I'll be packing soon, and I'll go through and kind of show off the freebies, the pre-order like goodies, how I pack my stuff, I guess what kind of bags or whatever else you guys want to see. I don't necessarily know if my setup to get things there is like as good as it could be, but it's what I have and it's what I work with. So I'll go through that at one point. But the biggest thing that you need to remember when you're applying for cons, specifically cons or events, even if it's something local, there's usually a deposit that's due. It depends entirely on the con, how that deposit is priced and when it's due. Some are due all up front. So when you go in and apply for any book event or book con, don't apply assuming that nobody's going to want you. A lot of book events will just pull from their list as they go through, especially as people withdraw or are unable to attend, and you might get accepted to a lot. In 2024, I was probably accepted to 50 events, and I only attended 5. So I had to send a lot of I'm sorry, I can't attend things, because I applied assuming that I was going to not get into anything, and it was going to be just a couple people who wanted to like have me at their event because I was a nobody. But a lot of them pulled off that backlist and sent me messages and PayPal invoices, and then it doesn't look awesome when you can't take the event on because you applied to too many. So just be mindful of that you're probably going to get accepted to more than you think. And whenever you apply, be mindful if you have to travel of what those fees are going to look like, if it's feasible to travel to that around anything else you have going on. Personally, I don't have any outside of the US this next year or this in 2024. So we drove to everything, and we're still going to drive to everything. That's what me and my husband do. We take a few days off, we drive, we have everything with us, so I don't have to worry about baggage, where my signs are, how my things got there. I'm a very worried person, so that would stress me out. But we bring everything with us. We pack my husband's truck, we plan for the road trip, we time out how long it's going to take versus the time zones we have to go through, and we make it work. And it's worked really well for us so far, but that's not feasible for everyone. So be mindful of how you're going to get there and back, if you have time off if you need it, if you need to fly versus drive, how the hotels look, what city you're going to. Cities like Boston or Orlando are going to be more expensive than cities like Kansas City or even parts of Arizona. It's completely dependent on where you're going. And just because a con or an event is held at a certain hotel, you can get a room block. You can usually get into those as long as it hasn't been filled up by authors or attendees already. Personally, I don't stay at the room blocks because I'm a very antisocial person and I need to be able to put distance between myself and the event. I need my space even more than a hotel room. I need to be able to walk around and not see anything so that I can have some downtime and not get overstimulated and overwhelmed. I lost my glasses while I was filming this. I put them down somewhere. But just remember, whenever you're signed up for any sort of book event, book convention, con, the likelihood that you're going to get into at least one in a calendar year is very high. There's really big events that are specific, and there's other events that are much more friendly to new authors who don't have an instant bestseller. So just it's hard to put yourself out there when most of us are introverts, but give yourself time and faith and believe in yourself a little bit, which is hard, but cons are a lot of fun. I can say I'm doing the calculations still. I don't have all my numbers figured out yet, but I'm pretty sure that all of my in-person sales made up at least half of what I made in 24. And actually I can say that accurately because I know that on Amazon I only did 8K and I had about 10K more than that. So they can be very beneficial. In-person sales are not for everyone, but I do sell some books like significantly more in person than I do at events, and I'll do a video of like my special editions versus the paperbacks and if I think those sell well, which is also very much based on who is attending that con. If it's like a more general public who may not be looking for those super expensive books, or collectors who want all the special editions with the edges, the foiling, the colors, everything. But we'll do that at a later date. I'm gonna do a 2024 wrapped soon, which is a little late, but I have to get all my numbers for 2024 because I'm filming this the last week of December. And in the last 3 days, I've made almost as much as I made the whole month. So I really want to see if that continues for the last like day or two. I'll do my 2024 wrapped. I already did my 25 goals and kind of how those compare. And then eventually I'll do the video when I'm prepping for for an event, what I bring to events and how that looks. And if it's of interest, I'll do a recap on how well a con does for me for special editions versus paperback versus like sets, book one, that kind of thing, which is also going to be very, very specific to each author. So I hope you thought this was informative. I hope it helps somebody. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the comments. I might make a video on them at some point. But this is still a platform I'm learning, but I'm enjoying it so far, and I can yap forever. So I will try eventually to get these videos a little more concise, but right now I'm just enjoying kind of like sharing my thoughts and learning. So I hope you had fun and learned something, or at least enjoyed watching me talk with my hands excessively. And until next week, bye.